Welcome to Grants.gov proposal submission using Cayuse System-to-System or Cayuse S2S. Before we get into the meat of how to do everything, we're going to do some technical stuff at the beginning. We need to make sure that we have disabled all pop-ups for whatever browser you're using. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do that right now using Firefox and Chrome as examples. The first thing we'll cover really quickly is how to enable pop-ups within Firefox. Let's use this browser first. So in Firefox, you'll look in the top right of your screen and you'll see the application menu. This is 3 horizontal lines. You'll click that and go to settings. There's a little search bar for all the settings up here at the top, and you can just type the word pop right there and you'll see highlighted there's a block pop-up windows is enabled by default, and we can click that exceptions button and we can let certain websites through the pop-up blocker. So I've already got mine listed here, but you may want to type in the address of the website, which I have right here. I'm just going to copy it and paste it in just to show you. That's how you do it, and click allow. And this way that will be added to your allowed pop-ups. You might want to add, that was the training version that I've got set up here. Let's say I've got the actual Tulane app, the Tulane Cayuse app. I'm going to add that one to the settings as well. I'll hit allow. Now any of these websites, they'll allow pop-ups. So that's how to do that in Firefox. Similarly, we can do the same thing in Chrome. Firefox and Chrome are the 2 recommended browsers. So in Chrome, you would go up to the top right and look for the 3 dots and go to settings there. And there's another search bar here. So if you search for pop, you can go down here to site settings and you'll see it's highlighted right here. We'll click on site settings, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a whole section for pop-ups and redirects. So we're going to go into that, and we're going to add certain, allowed to send pop-ups and use redirects. We should have a bunch of fields here, so you can add whichever thing you want here. So, for example, I'm going to paste in that Tulane app, Tulane Cayuse app right there. I already have it listed here, but just to show you how all of that works, and you can have all of your pop-ups enabled for all that. The system will not work without pop-ups being enabled, so that's one thing we need to keep in mind before we move on to actually using Cayuse. It'll generate a whole bunch of pop-ups. Just make sure you've disabled any pop-up blocking, and you should be good to go. If you are not seeing what I'm seeing on my screen at certain points in this training video, it may be because you're not getting those pop-ups going through. So reach out to IT if you need help disabling pop-ups, and just let us know if we can help as well. And now we'll move on to the actual training. Today we're going to be covering how to use Cayuse S2S to submit proposals to Grants.gov directly through our system. This is going to be one module out of many modules we have that uses Cayuse as a platform. You might be familiar with Cayuse SP, Sponsored Projects. That is our routing tool. Today we're going to be talking about the S2S section of it, which is how we use the routing tool at the beginning, but then within that SP routing tool, we're able to start a new proposal that will submit directly to Grants.gov. The first thing that you should do is make sure you have your web browser should be Firefox or Chrome tend to work the best for this, and make sure that you've enabled any pop-ups. If you have a pop-up blocker, make sure you've disabled that so that any pop-up will go through. We're going to cover the first video here. We're just going to cover how to set up a proposal and get it started with some basic autofill information. We're going to put out a second video for budgeting and subawards so you can show how to do that. The first thing you'll see when you log in, and I'm showing at the top, this is the login for our test instance. So anything we put in here will be going to the training instance of Grants.gov. So we're not going to worry, you don't need to worry about that. But when you're doing this live in real life, in the real instance, that's a different web address, and we'll have a link to that below. Just make sure you're not putting in any official Grants.gov business into this training website. Okay, so to start, we may be familiar with when you log into Cayuse, you'll see this task screen, and up in the top right, there's a product drop-down selector here. So we're familiar, we've used sponsored projects. We're going to be using Proposals S2S, but in order to go to Proposals S2S, we're recommending everybody start working on your proposal in Sponsored Projects. So I'm going to click on Sponsored Projects, and we're going to start a brand new routing, and through that routing, we'll get into the Grants.gov submission. We're going to start just like we normally do whenever we're starting a new project at Tulane. Let's start a new proposal within Cayuse SP. And if you need a refresher on Cayuse SP, we do have other videos on our YouTube page showing you how to use Cayuse sponsored projects. But we're just going to quickly get this one started so we can link it into Cayuse S2S to show you how it works. So we're just going to say this is a new project, and we're going to put in a title for our project. We're just going to call this one, I always put my last name, Ward, along with the sponsor and a few words of the title. So I would say this is a test, just to have a little test entry there. And this will create a new project. And then all we're going to do in Cayuse SP today is just fill out this first page, just because I want to show you at the bottom where we'll actually link into Cayuse S2S to submit to Grants.gov. Again, I'm not going to go too much in detail about these. You should know some of this already. I'm going to put, we'll say this is the School of Medicine. Project title, this is the full title. There we go. This is the full title of the proposal. Award type we're going to put as a grant. We're going to say this is a new proposal. The sponsor, I'm going to put NIH as the sponsor. A quick note about sponsor for Grants.gov. You don't have to put the subagency. If this is an NIH subagency, you don't need to worry about putting that subagency name here. Just put the overall NIH. That'll cover everything for the purposes of our internal routing at Tulane. As long as we see NIH, that's fine. We don't need the National Institutes of Mental Health to be listed here. It all rolls up to NIH. So don't worry about putting those subagencies in the routing. When we do S2S, it'll make sense. It'll actually pull in the correct agency. Is the sponsor a corporation or foundation? No. Main activity type will be research. NIH activity code, I'm just going to say this is an R01. And I'll say the deadline's the 30th. And so I just did all that just to show here is where the link to Cayuse Proposals S2S lives. This is where you will, at this point, start filling out a Grants.gov proposal. All you have to do is click yes to this, and an option will show up to create a new proposal S2S record, or you can link to an S2S record by searching for an existing one in Cayuse S2S. Just to show you the difference, there you can actually log in directly to Cayuse S2S Proposals S2S by going back to your home screen and going in here, or you can go into here and go through it here. We're recommending everyone start with SP because we want this routing sheet to be started anyway. We can't submit anything. We need a routing sheet for our internal purposes, and this is how we've always done it at Tulane. You may be submitting through Grants.gov, but we still need a routing sheet. And all Cayuse Sponsored Projects module is just a fancy routing sheet. So, we're recommending people start here and then go to create a new S2S proposal. And you'll basically be keeping both tabs open while you're filling in information back and forth. So to create a new proposal S2S record, we're just going to click this, and this will bring us to the new Grants.gov portal, as it were, being brought to you by Cayuse Proposals S2S. The first thing you'll see is this pop-up to ask you what you want to do first. We're going to be creating a proposal with Grants.gov. It gives you a few other options here that we will not be using. We won't be using it for other proposals ever. The research subaward we really won't be using much. Same for training subaward. Just go ahead and create a proposal using Grants.gov and click Create. Then what happens, we get a list of all the different opportunities we've downloaded from Grants.gov's server. So we can select any of these opportunities by hitting the plus sign and beginning the new project. It'll pull in all the information required, and we'll be able to fill out all the forms based on the opportunity's needs. If we can't find the opportunity, I'll do a quick navigation of this. You can set this, 50 per page if you want, multiple pages here. If you're not able to find the opportunity here, you can always download opportunities and search on Grants.gov's site you can download anything searching by CFDA number or opportunity number, and then you'll be able to download some more opportunities if you don't see it. A quick update to this video before I continue with what was previously recorded. In our live environment, you will see this Find More button, where if you can't find anything here, you can click this. It'll open a new window, and you can search Grants.gov for specific keywords. So if you wanted to search for any opportunities with cancer in the title, you can look at that. It'll search for cancer research. You can click on the opportunity details, and you can click the download button to the right-hand side, and it will download this to our local instance, and you'll be able to build a grant based on that. You might have to go to the next page to show it, but it should show up here. And all you do is click the plus sign. Now back to the regular video. It filters out all the closed opportunities, so you have this checkbox over here to show the closed ones. But what I want to go through, we need to find, there's a specific opportunity we need to look for on this page. So we're going to search for PA.GI-R01 and hit enter. This is the proposal I'm going to use for training today. I just happened to pick this one out. This is a good one for testing. And it gives you some information here: the title, agency, CFDA, open and close date. If you hover over this I, anytime you see an I, you can click on that, and it gives you more information about the opportunity. So we get the number, the package ID, the forms being used, the schema instructions. It shows all the forms that will be needed to complete this. On the left, it shows all the forms that are supported by Cayuse. Cayuse should support 99.9% of all forms. And it shows on the right-hand column here all the forms that are mandatory for this proposal to be submitted. So we'll go through this, and you'll see, it'll give you a message at the bottom saying this opportunity is fully supported by Proposals S2S, and that should be common for everyone to see. Very rarely will you see when it is not supported. If that's the case, then we might have to use your traditional method of submitting proposals directly at Grants.gov. But for our purposes, this looks great. It looks like everything's going to be fine. So all we're going to do is click this plus button to create proposal. When we get here, it shows the opportunity one more time. You can click on that I to show the information. There's a proposal name field, and anytime you see one of these blocks with a question mark, you can always click it for more information. So it tells you this is not the descriptive title. This is just a name that we can identify this grant. This is kind of just an internal thing, so you can find it later on. I'm just going to say Ward Test New. And then we need to find the PI that's going to be working on this. So by default, it shows the last few PIs you've put in. And I'm going to go ahead and search just to show you how it works. I'm going to find my name in here and search for PI. And it'll show up in a list below. You just find the one that is you and highlight it, and that's all you need to do to pick the PI. The organization for this should always be the administrators of the Tulane Educational Fund. This is the overall organization submitting the grant, and we need that to be that every time. The default IDC rate is a drop-down. This is a really important section. This is where you pick the IDC rate that coincides with this proposal. For this one, we're going to use organized research on campus. To be very careful when you pick this. This sets the default rates for everything in the system. There are a few blank ones here, so make sure you don't pick anything with an underscore. We have a few. We have organized off-campus up here. We have clinical trial, industry-funded off-campus. We have primate center on and off-campus. Those are all different rates set by Tulane. We're just going to say this is a, maybe work in the downtown campus. This is organized research on campus. I'll select that. Number of budget periods for this proposal, I'm going to say 5 budget periods. The due date, I think we put that in. It's already going to be there, 4/30/23. And the validation type is NIH. You can always change the due date if you need to right here as well. And that's it for this page. We're just going to hit Create Proposal. And then we start with the first page of the R&R. And I'll point out, while we're looking, we're here at the R&R, and we're in this tab in Firefox for Cayuse Proposals S2S. Just know that we still do need to go back to SP and fill out some things here as well. Just because you're filling out a proposal in S2S, it doesn't mean this will get autofilled. There's some things here that you still have to answer all these questions. This is for internal routing. This has always been the case at Tulane. We had our old routing sheets, and we needed that submitted to us so that we could get all the information we need for Tulane. So the cool thing is, a lot of what we'll be doing here in S2S will be auto-filled in, and you can just copy and paste some things over. So just feel free to jump back and forth between these two proposals, S2S and Cayuse SP, just to fill in some stuff. It might be helpful to you. The layout of everything here I'll kind of show. On the left-hand side, it's showing every form that was preloaded by this opportunity. Anything that we see with a gray checkbox means it's a mandatory form that has to be completed. It does not give you the option to uncheck it. If something is checked, that means it's included in the application that's being sent to Grants.gov. So there's a few things that are optional here. We've got, there's a choice between the R&R budget or the modular budget. So that's one option. We can pick one between the two. We might want to do a subaward, but for now, all of these are left unchecked because they're not mandatory forms for this opportunity. Every opportunity is going to have a different required number of forms and different information that will pre-populate. A few other navigational things I'll show is each one of these numbers represents page 1 or page 2 of this form. So we have the SF424, and this has 2 different pages to it. This performance site has 1 page. The budget has 4 pages, in addition to having different budget periods in there, but we'll talk about budget in a separate video. The other thing I'll show off is here's your breadcrumb trail at the top here. That's what we call it. So if you need to navigate folders structure and go up or down depending on what we add to this proposal later on, if I want to go back to the list of proposals, I can click on that and it'll show all of the proposals that I've been working on recently. It's currently saying recently viewed down here. I can click show all and it'll show every proposal I've ever worked on, and this is more sortable here. You can sort by column, whatever you need to do. But I'm going to go back to recently viewed just to show you this is the one we just created that we're going to be working on. It's really important that we see this icon beside each proposal. This means it has been paired with a proposal back over here in Cayuse Sponsored Projects. So again, at the bottom, if I refresh this page, it'll actually show you the attachment. It says that the proposals record is attached. There's the proposals S2S record is attached. It's not submitted. So this is how we're going to be checking this in sponsored projects in our office to, double check and see if we've got attachments. We've got proposals S2S attachment to the routing sheet if this is a federal proposal. So yeah, again, we want to see this icon with everything. That means it is paired. The R next to every one of these proposals just means you can open this by clicking it in read only. So that way you don't end up locking someone out of the system if they're trying to work on a proposal. So to get back, before I show you the proposal, also point out, we'll show this later on, we do have the option to copy, transform the proposal. So if this is a proposal that you've done before in Cayuse S2S and you need to resubmit it or there's a revision, something like that, you can click on that and click copy proposal and it'll make a brand new copy with using the exact same opportunity and carry over all of your information you've already entered, a big time saver. Similarly, we have transform proposal, which is when you want to copy as much information as you can from one opportunity into another one. So maybe the opportunity number changed, there's a different section you need to go to. This transform will copy as much of it, the old proposal, as it possibly can and move it to a new opportunity. Really good tools to use here. You can also delete a proposal. If you were working on something and it's not quite right, you can delete things here. Again, we can't delete things in our routing stage. That's just not possible with Cayuse SP. But for your own personal grant proposals, if you're not happy, you can always delete them. If something gets deleted accidentally, those of us with administrative privileges can undelete, and we can help out with that if something gets accidentally deleted. But for now, we're just going to jump back into the one we've been working on today, and we're going to start filling out this first page in just a moment. The last few icons I'll show is up here near the title. we have a few. There's that linked, that paired with proposal icon again. We have a quick link to proposal button. So if you click on it, you can actually highlight and copy and paste this proposal. So if you need to share it with somebody. We also have an information button here. If you click that, it shows you the proposal ID, package ID, opportunity, the browser you're using, all kind of good stuff here. And then at the top right, we have a few things here that are mirrored down to the bottom left. This key is where you will manage proposal permissions. So at the very beginning, I'll say you need to grant permissions to everyone who needs access to this proposal when you're using Proposals S2S. Back in SP, anytime you added somebody to key personnel section as an investigator, it would automatically grant them access to SP, but that will not carry over to S2S. If someone, you're going to have to make another list of people to give access to here in order to have them log into Cayuse S2S and work on a proposal if you need them to work on it. So we'll get into that when we talk about key persons. We actually will need to add the researchers, but we also need to add them in proposal permissions too, so that they can come in and work on it if they need to. We have this submission button, which we won't be using a lot for this part of the training. This is for when something needs to be submitted to Grants.gov, and there's only a few people in our department at Sponsored Projects Administration at Tulane that have the ability to actually submit. We have export, where you can export this. Suppose you're working on this, maybe you're doing your subcontract for another university's award or proposal. So you could export this as a .cayuse file and email that to them, and they could just import it into their system. The handiest of these buttons is the print button, where you can actually highlight parts of the proposal and print them out, and generate a PDF rather. It'll include any PDF attachments if you want. Suppose you, after we do the budget later, you just want to print out the budget, you can do that. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, and it'll look just like every Grants.gov submission you've seen before. It just formats it in the right way. So having covered all these buttons and the navigation, now we'll actually get started filling this proposal out. We're going to go page at a time and go through it. You'll see a lot of this. The point of using this system over Grants.gov is this contains a lot of pre-filled information. It'll save you some time. You know, we've always had to use that routing sheet right here in combination with submitting to Grants.gov through their portal, but this is a little bit more streamlined. It still is not going to autofill back and forth like you would hope, but it will fill a lot of things out here on the S2S side that'll save you some time. The first thing we'll do, we're going to start at number 1 and go to type of submission. This is going to be an application. I'm going to skip 2, 3, 4. We don't need to worry about any of those things right here. Section 5, the applicant information was auto-filled, so we picked that at the beginning. This is Tulane's legal name, our UEI. Everything we need is already filled out here. The next section of Part 1 is the person to be contacted on matters involving this application. You'll notice that everything is grayed out here because it wants you to use our autofill feature for the first time. Anywhere you see this pencil icon, this is where you can hover over things too. And it'll show you what will happen if you click. This will autofill the applicant contact on the proposal with some data from a professional profile. So we're going to click on this pencil, and we're going to search to find the person to add as the applicant contact. It's usually the case that we add Kathy Kozar for the person to be contacted. It might be different if you're maybe uptown. Maybe you'll have Denise Lovrovich. It depends on who is the current administrator. It shows you the most recently filled names too. So if you've done this before, it's probably going to show the contact again here. But in order to search for it, the contact for the first time, type in the person's name. I'm just going to type in Kozar for Kathy Kozar. Hit search, and then her name will show up here. And I'm going to click her name, click Add Applicant Contact. And that should autofill all of her information. Again, we're in a training website, so we're not going to have her official information for this. And same when we get into doing training on budgeting. We're not going to have any official budget information, obviously. This is pre-filled all the information we need, and that matches what we normally send out in our proposals. Next, we have the employer identification, EIN or TIN, and we have that pre-populated here, so no need to worry about that. The type of applicant, that also pre-populates. Tulane is a private institution of higher education. Number 8 is the type of application. We're going to say new. Just know if you hit revision, it lights up all of these options for the appropriate boxes of the revision. But this is just, we're going to keep it at new to make this a nice simple application here. Next, we have the name of the federal agency. That is auto-filled and grayed out. This got pulled in automatically when we downloaded and built a proposal using that opportunity that we pulled down. So NIH is being named as the federal agency here. 10 is the CFDA number and the title of that CFDA. So that's automatically filled in as well, brought down from the opportunity. We have a toggle for, is this application being submitted to other agencies? Just a yes or no. And here's the descriptive title of the applicant's project. This is where you'll put in the full title of the project. If I remember, I've put it in over here on general information already, so I'm just going to copy and paste it over here. Another advantage of keeping both of these tabs open and kind of working on both at once. So, yeah, there is going to be some information you have to, put in both spaces, but at least here you can kind of go back and forth and fill them out as you go. The more you get practice, the better you'll be at jumping back and forth and filling in information on the routing sheet. The final part of this page is the proposed project start and end date. This is really easy to put in, obviously. You'll click on the pencil next to the start date, and it asks the number of periods. There's going to be 5. It wants to know the period length. It's going to be 1 year for each period. And we're going to put in the start date. I'm going to save for this one. It's going to be May 1st. And you can see it automatically, because we picked the period length, it calculates how long each period is going to be. All you do is click Update Periods, and we're done with page 1 of the proposal. Next, we'll go over here to the left bar, and we can go to page 2 by clicking on the number 2, and it'll continue the SF424. So now we're at the, project director, principal investigator contact information. So we've got us in here. We just want to double check your information. It auto-fills everything, but also if you need to make changes, you can always add in whatever you need to add here. If something's missing and you need to put it in, just go ahead and write it in. It'll autofill to the best of its ability based on what we have in the system for you, but sometimes some things may be missing. Maybe that zip code might not be the full 9-digit zip code. So things like that, always check. Check your phone number, check your email address, but that should be autofilled already. Next, we have the estimated project funding. Right now, everything's at 0, and we're going to leave it at 0 for right now. We're skipping over a couple of fields intentionally, and we'll get back to that later on. Question 16, is the application subject to review by State Executive Order 12372? We've got a few options here. We're going for this proposal to be, this one is not covered by 12372. Ask your proposal sponsored projects administrator about that if you have any questions about what these mean. If you have any more in-depth questions, obviously talk to the person you normally work with in our department, and they can help you answer some of these questions. I'm just going to show how technically this is done. Question 17 is just to certify that the statements contained are true. You would agree to that. There's an upload field here. If there is an SFLLL or other explanatory documentation, you can upload it here if need be. Section 19, this is where the authorized representative would go. This is another autofilled area here. It needs to be selected via autofill. So these are the people that work at Tulane that are authorized signing representatives that can send this proposal and submit it to Grants.gov. So we're going to click that pencil and autofill. And again, we have the same search that we've had before. For this one, I'm going to say one of the people we have in our department, Tammy Jeniskins, I'm going to use her as an example for this one. She is showing below, but I want to do a search just to make sure everybody can see how it works. I'm just going to type part of her name and hit search. And I'm also going to check this ERA role filter to make sure it's at signing official AOR. There's only 3 or 4 people at Tulane that have this role, and so she should show up no problem at all. And that just means that she has the ability as a signing official to submit this to Grants.gov. So we're just going to highlight her name and hit Add Authorized Representative, and it will automatically populate all of her information here. The final two we have at the bottom are pre-application and cover letter attachment. And we're going to leave those blank for right now. We'll talk about some of that later, possibly. Before we move on to performance sites, we finished this first section here, but I want to point out at the bottom, the really important thing that everybody should look at for proposals S2S is this error button here. This shows you every error, warning, and informational notification that's going on with the proposal. If you click on it, this expands and contracts depending on where you click. If you expand it, it shows you every single error and anything that's preventing this from being sent to Grants.gov. So if you ever get lost doing this proposal and you're not sure what needs to be filled out, just click here and make sure every error is at 0 when we're done. That's going to be the goal of today, is to get everything down to 0. An error will prevent a proposal from being submitted. Anything with a warning will still submit, but it's just giving you some warnings about a few fields, and we'll get into that later. Info is just not serious things, but just more recommendations. It could be from Cayuse about what to do with the proposal. So always keep an eye on these when you're working through some of these forms, and this will link you. If you're missing something, you can open it and click something, and it'll jump you right to where something's missing. So this one is saying the total non-federal funds value is required. And oh yeah, there is not going to be any federal funds in this, so I'm going to put a 0 there. And when I click off of it, it removes that error. I'm going to do the same thing for the estimated program income while I'm here, because I'm seeing that down here too. I should probably fill that out. I don't anticipate there being any income here. I'll leave that at 0. That gets rid of the error. So really good way to double check where you are to see how the proposal is progressing. If you see a star next to a field, that just means that you've manually entered or changed something that normally would auto-calculate. We'll get into that more when we cover budgets. But as far as the first required form, we are done with the SF424 R&R. Next, we're going to cover performance sites. And to get to performance sites, all we do is either click on R&R performance sites or page 1, either one here, and it'll bring you to this performance sites page. What we do is you'll type in your organization here. So if you were in the Primate Center, you would type in Primate Center official name, UEI, street, city, state, country, congressional district, zip code. So this is not autofillable right now. In the future, we may roll out, we may add some performance sites to your person data. If you're using the same performance site over and over again, maybe we can add it to this to autofill, in which case you would go to the pencil and you would see the PI right here. You could click their name and scroll down and go to add performance site to proposal, and it'll autofill. But right now we're leaving that off. If you wanted to use Tulane as a performance site and just leave it at that, like the main campus location, you could click the pencil and go to institutional profiles and pick Tulane. Ignore that Primate Center, that's a test one we're doing. And it would fill in everything here, and click the X to delete it. But for right now, we're recommending everybody fill in this information, and keep in mind you can also see some information here on performance sites on the SP module for the routing. So you might be going back and forth filling some of this in. Again, soon hopefully we'll have this able to autofill, but for right now, when we start with the system, just go ahead and fill this out to the best of your ability. The next section we have is R&R Other Project Information. So we're going to go to page 1 here and answer some of these questions. First, are human subjects involved? For this proposal, we're going to say yes, there is human subjects involved. The next question below it, if yes, is the project exempt from federal regulations? We're going to say no. If you were to say yes, all of these exemption numbers would highlight and give you an informational hover showing you which each exemption would mean. We're going to leave this one at no. If no, is the IRB review pending? We're going to say, just for the sake of this proposal, it's a pending review. If you said no, you could actually put the IRB approval date. We have the human subject assurance number. This is autofilled from our institutional profile, so that stays there. Autofilled. Again, another advantage of autofilling as much as we can. Question 2, are vertebrate animals used? We're going to say no to this one. So that'll take care of this entire section. We're not going to worry about vertebrate animals just for this proposal. And then number 3, proprietary privileged information included. We're going to leave that at no. Does the project have an actual or perceived impact on the environment? For question 4, we're going to leave all of that section 4. We're going to say no. Section 5, is the research performance site designated or eligible to be designated as a historic place? We're going to say no. Does the project involve activities outside the U.S. or partnership with international collaborators? Yes or no? Again, if you hit yes, that's where you fill that out. And then below that, we have a few different upload fields here. So we're going to upload a few of these. If you have some, if you're doing this on your own, make sure you put in the correct one, obviously. But if you're in a test environment like me, I've just got some blank PDFs I'm going to add. Some of these are, might be necessary for the proposal to route. Some of them might be just some extra information you add. But I'm going to go ahead and upload this project summary. If I click Add, I get the option to choose a final version or a draft version. All of the time, you're going to want to put a final version of that project summary. They put a draft in here in case people use this as like a workspace area so they can come in and work on drafts. But we found most people don't really use the draft section of it. So choose final, find your project summary, abstract, and attach it here. And click Upload. And then it shows the link to it. It shows that it's one page, it's a PDF, and it shows the size of the PDF. You can always delete the PDF here if you need to. We're going to do the same thing for project narrative. I'm just going to choose the final for project narrative, locate that, and upload it. Also, bibliography. I'm going to find that one, upload. Facilities and other resources. I think I've got one of those. I'll pick that, upload. And equipment, I'm going to choose final and find my equipment right here and upload. You can always upload other attachments here if need be. But I can see by uploading some of those, my errors at the beginning were around 20 maybe. So uploading a few of these actually got rid of some of those errors for missing documents. Again, always go back down here and double check for what you need to fill out. And that does it for the R&R other project information. The next section we'll cover is a really important one, the R&R key persons. So we're going to navigate to the first and only page with this, and this is where we'll put in all of our investigators. So I've already entered, at the very beginning of this proposal, I put myself as the PI. Just know that if you're doing this for another PI, you actually do need, just adding them to the proposal is one thing, but you need to actually give them proposal permissions. So if, pretend like I was someone else working on this proposal, I need to go to proposal permissions and add a user. And I'd have to search for that user, and maybe, I needed to add somebody. I'm going to search for my own name again. Again, this is not really needed. It shows that I already have permissions assigned. It shows it in gray because I can't add it because I'm already there. So just know that you'll still have to add other people to this proposal. It's different than going back to SP, where just because you add somebody here, it automatically gives them access to the routing. That's not the case with this Grants.gov system. So you actually do need to add people at 2-lane here. Again, this is a 2-lane only that you can add for permissions to this proposal. So keep that in mind. Again, you might be filling this out at the same time. You might be jumping back and forth between key personnel here and the key persons over here. Before we add anybody else, I'm going to click this little plus sign next to my name just to have another look at all of my information. It's really important to double check everything. I'm looking through things here. Everything looks good. Here's one thing that we do need to add, your credential for this, the ERA Commons login. We're submitting this to Grants.gov, NIH. I'm going to use my, put in my credential agency login here. I'm just going to put W Ward 1 for that. And I'm also, while I'm here, I'm going to attach my biosketch. I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to choose a biosketch. I'll pick this one and upload it. And everything else here, that's all I'm going to put for myself. Always look for these pluses and minuses. They will expand or contract whatever field you're looking at. Next we have, we want to add a co-investigator to this. And keep in mind while you're doing this, again, I'm going over to routing over here. and I'm putting all of that information here as well. So don't leave out the Cayuse SP routing. I'm not going to really touch on this a lot for the rest of the training. We're just going to assume that you're jumping back and forth and putting in this information as you go. I'm going to add a co-investigator to this one, and we're going to show you how that works. I'm going to click. We have two options. You can either add a key person directly here, or more preferably, this Manage Key Persons is a really good pop-up window that comes in. And this is a way to manage all the key people at once in one screen. It's found a little bit more helpful. It already shows me here, but I'm going to add another key person. For this key person, I'm going to add, let's see, I'm going to add Nick Lopez to this. So if I search for the last name Lopez, it's going to do a search for everyone at Tulane that contains the letters that are involved in Lopez here. So it's anything with Lopez. The best way to do this, though, it's going to return way too many results. We want to narrow this down to anyone that has the ability to be a PI. We're not going to make them a PI. We're going to make them a co-investigator. But the title of that filter is the PI, Principal Investigator Role Filter. So if you click that, it'll narrow it down to anyone at Tulane that has the ability to be named as an investigator. And we do have Nick Lopez on here, so he's the only one showing up. I'll just highlight his name and add selected key person. Then below his name, after we've added him, we can show the budget periods here that he will be working with. By default, it adds him to all the budget periods. You can select or unselect whichever you need here. We're going to leave him on all 5. It has this little minus sign next to his name up here. If you click that, it collapses that field. So you can see every single key person involved. The PI will be always in kind of this faint purple hue. It's kind of hard to tell from looking at this maybe, but my name as the PI, I'm showing up in purple slightly. I'm going to re-expand Nick Lopez, and we're going to do a little bit of budgeting here in a little bit, just to show you how it works. But first, we want to add his bio sketch, so I'm going to go ahead and add it while I'm looking at it. If you forgot to add it, it'll the screen will have an error and let you know that you forgot the bio sketch later on. So if you ever get lost, you can easily get jumped back up here whenever you click the error message, and you'll see. We're going to scroll down a little bit. Always keep in mind with these pop-ups that you might have to open the window a little bit more or scroll or something like that. There's a role drop-down. Very important you pick his role. We're going to make him a co-investigator on this project. There are many options here, but we're going to pick co-investigator. His appointment type is already preset at Tulane. Nick Lopez has a 12-month calendar appointment. We're going to cover calendar appointments for this part. Things get complicated when someone has academic/summer appointments, but for us, we're going to stick. He's going to stay at calendar appointment. We have his base salary here that auto-populates. Keep in mind, it will auto-populate up to the salary cap. We don't put in salaries for anyone that's... we put salaries up to the salary cap, I should say, for anyone that gets added to a proposal. And once someone gets added to a proposal, they get an email notifying them they've been added. So anytime you pick a researcher at the university and add them in, they're going to get a notification that they've been added here immediately. It pulls in their default calendar year salary for Nick Lopez. And here's where we put, right here, the number of calendar months he'll be working on this project. So for this one, I'm going to say he's going to be doing 6 calendar months. And when I click off of it, it auto-calculates the requested salary based on his calendar salary, based on the number of months. It also, in his administrative profile, has his fringe benefit rate, and it auto-calculates that as well to create the funds requested. So it automatically does all this for you. Really easy to do. And we'll get into the academic and summer is a little bit different because those don't calculate the fringe correctly. We'll cover that more when we do the budgeting video, which you'll see as a separate video. If you want, you can go in and keep adding his calendar months and doing that, building out his salary and fringe for all 5 years. But the really great thing that you should do is when you're in this key person's pop-up window, if you see this Escalate Replicate button, this little stair step, if you click on this, it'll let you do escalated salaries for inflation or for just how certain universities escalate salaries, or you can replicate them. So in this example, we've got a preset salary escalation every year on July 1st at 3%. Okay, so this is just the two-lane default. It can be changed here if we need to for budgeting purposes. It also asks you the start budget period, where you want to start doing the replication or escalation. We're going to start in budget period 1 and just go through budget period 5. And we can pre-escalate. There's a little help bubble next to that if you need a definition on that. But if we need to pre-escalate, you can do that. Again, let me re-show that here. I'll open that up. Pre-escalate gives you some information about what that means. So if, let's say this proposal started after July 1st when our salaries change, you could pre-escalate the budget to reflect that it'll be there. For this one, and then we give the option for escalate or replicate. I'm seeing that his base salary is a little close to the salary cap, so I'm just going to replicate the key person. So if you hit replicate, it'll just simply duplicate everything from budget period 1 into each other subsequent project period. So I've got him covered through all 5 years. I could have done this the same just by putting 6 calendar months here. It would have auto-calculated, but it's just another quick way to do things here. So I'm going to scroll back up, and I'm going to minimize his, click that plus minus to minimize that. While I'm here, I'm also going to double check my information. I'm going to click on the plus one more time, and I see that I never covered my salary too. So I need to do this here for my own salary. I'm going to put in, let's say I'm just going to do 6 calendar months for me as well. So it auto-calculates my salary, fringe, funds requested. Again, we're all using fake salaries here, so these are not accurate. But for me, let's say I need to escalate my salary. I'm going to click on the escalator button, and it's showing me 3%. If I chose to escalate, it would escalate all of that by 3%. Budget period 1 through budget period 5, yep, that's right. And instead of replicate, I'm going to click escalate. And when I do that, you can see every subsequent year it adds 3% to the value. So my funds requested go up by 3% every year. So that's 2 different ways. For Nick, I just simply did replicate. For me, I did escalate, just to show you the 2 differences between those. And you would go through every key person. You would add somebody and just get in the habit of adding a key person, adding their bio sketch, and then calculating out their salary information over the course of the project. When you're done with that, you can just hit close, and you'll be brought back to the R&R key persons page, and we're pretty much done with this page for now. So we're not going to cover R&R budget today. We've got 4 pages of budget information we're not going to really cover. That'll be a separate video, so we can go more in depth about how to build out a budget. The next page we'll go to is one of the other required fields, PHS human subjects and clinical trials information. The first question we have here: does any of the proposed research in the application involve human specimens and or data? We're going to click yes on that. We're going to skip past this explanation here. And this should have been pre-filled from earlier questions we answered. Human subjects involved, we put yes. Is the project exempt? We hit no. These are all grayed out, unable, because we put no on that. What we're going to do is scroll a little bit further down here, and we need to add a study to this record. That's part of how this opportunity works, is we need to add a human subject study. So what we're going to do is click Add New Study, and it's going to pop up a window asking put in a unique study title. I'm just going to put Test Study New, just putting in something here and clicking Add New. And what happens is it opens a brand new form. I want you to pay attention to what happened to the breadcrumb trail. It added another step. Now we're a step deeper into the proposal section. To jump back to where we were, we can click on this previous link, and it'll bring us right back to where we were. To go back into that study and complete the study, we need to click back into the study. So just get used to looking up here. If you're kind of lost about where everything is, you can always jump back to your main proposal. Even if you hover over it, it lets you know the main proposal's there, and you can go back to your big proposals list here. But we're going to continue finishing this study up right here just to get it all done. If you have a composite PDF with the section headings and page boundaries all set, you could add it here. It would auto fill in everything, but we're going to just go ahead and fill this out manually here. The basic information, we already put the study title. Is the study exempt from federal regulations? We're going to say no. We're going to keep going down. There's no exemptions because we hit no. The clinical trial questionnaire, I'm just going to put these all at yes, just to have some stuff there to show off later. Let's see, we can go down to section 2, the conditions or focus of study. We're going to just kind of write in testing, just to have a new condition here, just to point out here at the bottom, we do have all these errors and warnings just for this test study too. So this we need to get down to 0 to make sure this study is filled out properly. So if you ever get lost on this study, you just click on that and it'll jump you to everywhere you need to fill out. Okay, we're going to keep scrolling down and we're going to ignore some of these things now. They might be mandatory depending on the study and depending on some answers or the opportunity, but I think for this one we're going to skip it unless we're guided to do so. I'm going to add a few documents here. Let's see, I'm going to pick this inclusion of individuals. Let's see if I have this one. I might not, so I'm just going to pick, here I'm just going to pick a different one here. Normally you'd obviously upload the correct document here. I just didn't happen to have it with me. Inclusion of women and minorities, I do believe I have that one. And I'll upload that. Okay, there we go here. I'm going to just kind of skip over this one. Maybe I'll upload a study timeline. So I'm going to add study timeline here and click upload. Let's see, I'm going to keep scrolling. Protection of human subjects. Yeah, I'm going to add that one too. Choose final. Here we go there. And, maybe I'm kind of, what if you think you filled out everything, you don't know what else you need, you can always click on this and, it's asking here, a response to the question regarding multi-site studies is required. And you can click on it and it brings you right to where you need to answer. So it was right here. Is this a multi-site study? I'm going to hit no. I've got a few things here left, but I'm just going to keep scrolling down and upload what I feel like I might want to put in. Maybe the data and safety monitoring plan, I'll add that too. Upload. That brought my errors down to 0. Now I just have a warning, but I'm just going to look over really quick. Let's see what else. Maybe I don't feel like entering anything else here. It looks okay, but I've got a warning. Let me see what this warning is. This warning error, the way it works is it shows where the warning is and who is giving you the warning. So NIH is giving you a warning saying usually an overall structure of study team attachment is needed when you answer yes to questions 1.4a through D. So I'm just going to click, what was 1.4a through D? Oh, it was these questions. So now it says usually an overall structure of the study team attachment is needed. All right, well, I'm going to click on that and go find one. Oh, here it is right here. And I'll upload that. And now this is eligible to be completed. We've got no errors, no warnings, no informational screens. So everything's filled out to the best of our ability here. Again, this might change depending on what you need, what you have with you. You might want to add some of these things that might be mandatory for this opportunity. But for the purposes of training, we're going to count this as a win, and we've got the test study done. A quick thing, you can jump back to the main proposal. If you're ever working on a page and you're, you might have to step away or, you're on an unstable connection or something, you can always hit save and it'll save everything you're working on. But it will auto-save when you jump back to the main form here. Just know that. So I jumped back to the main proposal, and sure enough, it brought me back here to PHS human subjects. If I scroll down, I see the test study new, and clinical trial is checkmarked because I marked that on the study. And you can always go back in there and click on the study. You can add a new one, import one, and that pretty much does it for that section. All right, we're going to skip over the modular budget section. We're not going to worry with that right now. We're also going to skip over subaward. We'll cover all of the budgets and subawards in another video. Look for part 2 of this video on our site. We're going to next go down to this PHS 398 cover page supplement. Just a few quick things we have to answer here. You can see that our warnings for this proposal, our errors and warnings are going down. So for vertebrate animals, are vertebrate animals euthanized? We can't answer this yes or no because this selection is enabled when vertebrate animals used question is selected yes back on one of the other pages for other project information. We didn't answer yes, so this is grayed out. We don't have to answer this. We do have to answer the program income section. We're going to leave this at no. Human embryonic stem cells section, we're going to say no to that as well. Again, this might be this might be different. If you hit yes, it's going to ask you some more questions. Human fetal tissue section, we're going to leave that at no. If you were to say yes, then it would want you to add drafts, but these are grayed out because, it would want you to add final or draft versions of this document, but it only shows up when you say yes. And we're done with that section on page 1. Page 2, shouldn't be anything here that you need to change on page 2 for the purposes of this proposal. And we're going to go straight on to the final one, which is the PHS 398 research plan. This is a few other documents we might need to upload. So let's say I'm going to do the specific aims. I'm going to upload that. Find that one. Upload. Research strategy I'm also going to upload. Here we go. Upload that. And let's see what else we can do. I'll scroll a little bit down. Consortium contractual arrangements. I'll add that one. Actually, don't have that one. I'm going to leave it blank. Let's scroll down, and should be it for that section. But I kind of want to check. I've got still 2 errors left and some warning and info sections. So I'm just curious of what I've forgotten. So let's just click here. It's giving me a error for key person 1. Zip postal code must be either a 9-digit zip code or valid Canada postal code. So I'm just going to click on that link, and it's going to bring me to where I left out some information. And sure enough, the one that was brought in for Nick Lopez didn't have the full 9-digit code on here. So I'm just going to put in a fake zip code there. And that takes care of that error. Now the error is down to 1. The other error is showing that there's a budget that needs to be included with this submission. It's because I didn't check the R&R budget or modular budget, so it's not going to let me submit unless I've clicked that to attach a budget, and we're going to cover that later on. Below errors, again, errors stop things from going through. A warning is just a serious warning that something needs fixing. So right here it's telling me this is an NIH-generated message that all individuals listed as senior key person form must enter an active ERA Commons account. So if you click on the link to show you where it's wrong, oh yeah, I didn't put in his ERA Commons name login. So I'm going to pretend like I know what it is and put it there, and that gets rid of that warning. So now we've gotten rid of the warnings, we're down to the info sections. I can quickly see that a lot of these have to do with salaries and budgeting, and we're not going to care. We're not going to worry about that right now. But this one I can fix. It says this is a message coming from Cayuse. So this isn't from NIH. This is just a helpful hint from Cayuse in the info section. A cover letter is often recommended. Check the FOA and the guidance. So if you click that, it'll bring you to where you would upload a cover letter attachment, and you could choose and pick it there. And that'll knock out one of the info sections. Again, the info is the least of the things to worry about, but ideally you want to get everything at 0. I'm going to minimize that. And again, we were back at that PHS 398 research plan where we had a bunch of other things. You can upload more attachments if you needed to, but for the purposes of everything, we've actually put in, besides the budget, everything we need. We're going to cover this in section 2 when we cover budgeting and how that works and how we do subawards. So be sure to join us for that, and we'll also talk about how the electronic submission works and how to export all this information. But thank you for watching, and be sure to watch part 2 for more information.